Arthur was a kids' TV show which started in the late 1990s and was canceled a little while ago. It's one of the weirdest reality-based shows that sets examples for kids. I grew up with it, and I still watch it when it comes on weekday mornings when I don't have school. This story, though, will explain what has soured me from buying other old episodes on tape. I had written this description of the episode a few years back and left it on my computer, and after much thought, I've decided to release it. This story takes place on May 10th, 2009. I wish this tape had survived long enough for me to get some screenshots from it, but alas, the film tore badly, and during repairs I lost all but 5 minutes of the episode. The tape was bought secondhand about a month ago from my normal secondhand media store, the Corner Store. For those who don't live in central Alberta, it's an old music store that became a secondhand book movie store some time ago. I have bought almost 100 VHS tapes from him, all of which worked fine, except this one. I bought the tape because I'm trying to find the old episodes of Arthur again, to bring back memories, good memories, of my childhood. I love that show, and I still watch it when it comes on. As all should know, Arthur ran for a pretty long time, and the episodes that were coming out around this time were nothing to brag about. The animation looked cheap and rather rushed. The stories were often dull, and the focus on mental illnesses in children, like the one about the kid with Asperger's, feel out of place. Characters have changed. The bullies are now good guys, like Binky. Francine is even more of a bitch, and DW no longer has moments that make her seem like more than a spoiled brat. The show was pretty much ruined by that point, and to escape that mess, I went out to buy some old episodes on tape. Home recordings were of particular interest because I could see some of the old commercials that had aired at the time. I bought about $5 worth of old tapes, each at 50 cents. They all seemed fine. Each was properly labeled with episode times, recording dates, and timestamps. However, the one that caught my eye was the title Death of Grandma, recorded on March 5th, 1998, with a lone timestamp. 1524 lost the channel. It was an episode I didn't know, from an air date that seemed almost too old to be trusted. I noticed that the title had been written on a patch of whiteout. I decided against scrapping it off. Perhaps it was a recording of something in the people's lives. I decided to watch that first. The beginning was the opening of Arthur. The theme sounded a bit tinny, probably due to bad recording equipment. The tape had issues which troubled me. Mainly the tracking. I just couldn't get it to stop being jumpy and awkward to watch. Eventually I gave up, leaving it where there was a line of fuzz across the top, and I sat down. There was no opening title for the episode. It showed Elwood City Hospital, something I wasn't very familiar with. The sad music was playing. The only car in the parking lot was the Reeds. It cut to Arthur and DW in the waiting room. Arthur was reading a Scare Your Pants Off book, while DW pestered him about the story. The volume was bad, making it really hard for me to listen to, but I'll do my best to recreate what they were saying, though it's hard to remember. DW:
Why won't you play with me, Arthur? I'm bored! Why are we even here?
Shut up, DW, I'm trying to read, said Arthur. The parents came down the hall. The mom was crying, and the dad looked shocked. DW ran to them, asking why Arthur was ignoring her. The dad told her to sit down. Now, kids, I'm afraid that we won't be seeing Grandma Thora again. She's gone to a better place. He broke into tears. As always, the voice acting was pretty good. Arthur dropped his book in shock and stared. They sat there unmoving, the tape rippling with static, as the parents' crying looped over and over. It cut to them at home. The mom was on the phone, looking sad but acting professional. DW was staring at the TV, but it was a static screen, kinda like that movie Poltergeist. Baby Kate was just sitting there unmoving, along with DW looking at the TV static. The dad was making a wedding cake, his face grim. The doorbell rang and Arthur opened the door. It was Buster. "Hey, I heard what happened. You want to go down to the sugar bowl and talk?" "Sure." The shot of the sugar bowl appeared, but there was no music, only wind blowing. I noticed it was fall in the episode as dead leaves were littering the ground. Arthur and Buster were sitting there, not talking, not moving. It reminded me of the still frames that sometimes appeared in the old TMNT cartoon. Buster spoke, but his mouth was not moving with the words at all. We should do something fun to cheer ourselves up. Arthur just stared at him, eyes blank. It jumped suddenly to the funeral. Everyone was in black, there was no music, only crying. The casket was pure white, draped in flowers. It showed Arthur, his face wet with tears, before the imagination sound cue came in. The casket opened and it wasn't Grandma Thora, but instead his mom. Her face was heavily wrinkled, like in the episode where DW got lost in the mall and was thinking about what life would be like without her. Her teeth were showing and the color was off. Shut up! Anyways, her teeth were showing and the color was off, being more of a yellow than the normal white. Her eyes suddenly opened, but they were not human, but rather black button eyes like on Arthur's stuffed bear Stanley. He screamed and everyone vanished, leaving him alone in the church. The walls fell in, exposing a red and black streaked sky. DW's laughter could be heard high and rapid. There was a loud bang, and the images stopped. Arthur was sitting there with his face pale. His mom was whispering something to Dad. DW was crying. They were walking in a single file line to the coffin. As Arthur got closer, you could hear the buzzing of flies. He swallowed and wiped his eyes. The coffin lid was open. He looked in, there was a shot of his face. He was enraged. There was a flash of white, and the sound was gone for a moment. Suddenly, they were in the car again. The episode ended. As for the commercials, they weren't anything that amazing. Just some ads for Chick-fil-A and KSBS. Now, the next part did have the title, Recovery. It was written on a plain white background for the title card. I could hear DW screaming, like when Arthur punched her before the episode started up. Of course DW deserved that, but that's a different story for another day. The family was at home. It seemed like a continuation of the previous part. DW was in her room, solemnly playing with her dolls. The parents were reminiscing over pictures, and Arthur was in his room. Soon Pale came in and started barking at him, wanting to play, of course. Arthur got up and kicked the dog. He kept kicking him, the soundtrack now consisting of Pale's yelps, before slamming his door shut. Kate starts crying. Arthur gritted his teeth, and the scene faded out. The next scene showed that it was nighttime as Arthur crept out of his room with his backpack on his shoulder. He walked past Pale, who whined and drew away, before grabbing his coat and sneaking out. He ran for a full 3 minutes, the streets all in shadow. There was music, very soft, normal, happy music that we all knew from the show. That ended, though, when he ran into the graveyard. He stopped at his grandma's grave, staring at it. There was an owl hooting sound, and he started digging, crying out in pain as he did. His bare hands were soon slicked in dark red blood. and he stopped, finding the coffin. He was crying now. The coffin opened up, and Arthur was inside of it. His eyes were closed, and his glasses shattered. His family gathered around, staring down and crying. Kate was screaming, and for whatever reason, DW threw Pale into the open grave. Another reason to hate DW, of course. Although his body was unmoving, there was a still of him running. The screen went black, and there was a low sound that rose to a high clatter. High chatter, I meant. It was the Tibbles laughing. The grave started to spin in empty space, opening and sucking the void into it. I could hear DW yelling,
Kate did it!
over and over again, mixed with Pale's cries of pain. Stanley appeared, spiraling down through the blackness. His head was torn off, and the cartoony organs from the episode where Arthur cut his knee started trailing out from the body. There was a series of loud thuds, and it showed Arthur again, sitting there in the sugar bowl. Buster was unmoving on the floor besides the booth. His eyes were gone. The red sockets started to stream blood, and Arthur screamed in rage. There were a few white flashes, and it showed him in prison, wearing the black and white clothing the show always used, and his face covered in scars. His last words were louder than the other speech clips. I killed them all. I beat out Kate's brains and stabbed DW. I killed my dog. My parents ate poison. I killed my friends and I shot Mr. Ratburn, but I didn't do it. She did it. Thora did it. She made me kill them. It went to the credits, and it was the normal cheery music. Stunned, I went to rewind the tape to see if what I just saw was real or if it was just a bad dream. When I tried to rewind the video, the tape seized up, so I took the tape and opened it. The film had split an inch from one reel all the way down to a few inches from the other one. Either I had just witnessed one of the worst things to ever be associated with a kids show, or I'm just off my nut. I will never know. I remember it pretty well though, suggesting it was real. If this was made by some sick fuck as a sick joke, I give them a thumbs up on making something that seems so real, like if it was actually part of the series. After all, the video had never cut out like it said on the tape, unless it had on what had been originally been recorded. But now I think of it, since the show always covers very real topics, could this have been a real episode that they only aired once? They did one on DW's bird dying, but never one on abuse or anything like that. If it really was a real episode, and I almost hope it is, I'm intrigued and I really want to see it again to prove myself I'm not going mad. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed this video. Make sure to subscribe for more awesome content. Make sure to tune in this Halloween season so that you don't miss the third Surround Productions Halloween special. Now, I gotta go. Mocha wants to be fed.